What up, YouTube? Welcome back. All right, I want to present a question to you guys. Can dark-skinned people prefer light-skinned people as far as relationships and marriages and dating are concerned? Do you think that the community allows dark-skinned people to prefer light-skinned people without any sort of pushback or problems occurring? In my personal opinion, I think that sometimes, in many cases, dark skinned people are like low key shamed for preferring light skinned people, and I think that goes for both, dark skinned men and women. Notice, dark skinned men are like stereotyped as preferring light skinned women, but hardly do you ever hear dark skinned men just come out and just say it. Hey, I just prefer light skinned women. Hardly do you ever hear that. I mean, you see it with their actions, but you don't hear it with their words. They make sure not to verbalize it, right? They make sure to say something like, "Oh, I love all black women. I think all black women are attractive, right? All shades matter. All shades matter to me." You know, and I'm not sure why that is. I don't know why that is. That they don't feel like they can just be upfront about their preference. Perhaps maybe that's just how. Perhaps they know that if they are upfront about their preference, it could just open the door for so many other conversations, but also criticisms. And they don't want to put themselves through that, perhaps, right? And the same can be said about dark skinned women who very, very low key, some, of course. And to be fair, some with dark skinned men too, because not every single dark skinned man prefers light skinned women. But that's kind of like the stereotype with, the dark skinned dudes, though. But the dark skinned women, they're not stereotyped as preferring light skinned men, And I think that's often because the community makes sure, they make sure to shame the dark skinned women definitely for preferring anything outside of herself, or that's not reflective of herself, right? Like, oh, you want light skinned babies with good hair. Oh, you on that shit, right? Even though, like, let's be honest, just speaking based on statistics, who's making these light skinned babies with good hair? I did a whole video about this, by the way. Who's making these light skinned babies with good hair? Speaking strictly based on statistics, nothing, just numbers. It ain't black women. Yeah, they're participating, but black men are leading the charge on that. So, but like they push that on the dark skinned woman though. like, like make sure that no. Don't you even think about it. But for the dark skinned women who perhaps have a dating history that includes a lot of light skinned men, sometimes you notice like low key they put it out there like those are the guys that try to holler, and that's probably is true. I'm not saying that they're lying about that, but that they got to put it out there though, right? But if these were dark skinned men, she wouldn't feel the need to put that out there like, oh, those are just the men that try to holler at me. Just putting out there like, hey, so don't you know I'm not a self-hater, all right? Those are just the men that, show interest in me, right? And I can understand where, the dark-skinned women are coming from with that because, again, like dark-skinned women are shamed for, again, preferring anything outside of themselves. But to be fair, as are the dark-skinned men, and also the dark-skinned men could say, the light-skinned women are the ones that seem to be interested and seem to show interest. So, yeah, it kind of gets. We can go really in depth just on that, but I want to talk about a few other things though. You know, I think the community reacts this way because I think we as a community, while we do kind of accept light-skinned folks, sometimes I think we can kind of view light-skinned people, mixed people, biracial people, I'll include them in it as well, view them as sort of like, other or adjacent to whiteness. And because of them being other or adjacent to whiteness, it's like if you prefer them, it's like you're like low-key saying you sort of buy into kind of like the whole, white is right or light is better sort of lie that's been promoted for so long. And I think the community reacts that way because after all, we can't really, it would be kind of a little strange to have the whole community of like dark-skinned folk preferring light-skinned people. I guess that would seem a little strange, or dating light-skinned people. But statistically speaking, even if that were so, it couldn't happen, I don't think, just because there's just not a lot of light-skinned folks to go around, And some light-skinned and biracial and mixed folks don't want much to do with the community anyway. So, just based on statistics, that just wouldn't happen where we would have a whole bunch of dark-skinned folks running around with light-skinned folks. Another thing that I hear and have noticed and has come up is like some dark-skinned people may feel like they're being erased. And I think this is maybe partially why the community may react in this way as well, because it's like, oh, you're like contributing to the erasure of dark-skinned people, And for some reason, I just don't imagine dark-skinned people being erased, though. I know that some dark-skinned people may have like that sort of a concern, and I think that that concern is valid, and I can understand where that concern comes from. But for some reason, I just don't see that happening. I guess, I mean, because I look at like Africa, and I'm like, well, there's like a ton of dark-skinned folks in Africa. I don't see them being erased. And also in other parts of the world too. And even in the community, like the African American community, I think dark-skinned people are the majority. Like light-skinned people are like pretty, to be honest, light-skinned people are like, the light-skinned mixed and biracial folks are a super minority, really, if you think about it. Because they're like a minority, but also a minority within a minority, right? Like if I go somewhere that's, quote unquote, a black place, or, a black city, a black town, etc., I don't expect to see people who look like me. Like when I used to ride transit, and like a lot of, black folks where I live be riding transit, public transportation. When I got on the bus, I did not see people who looked like me. And not that, that's an issue, they're black, and I'm like, okay, black, right? Black is black. But I'm just saying, like, and also I didn't even really notice it until like much years later into like adulthood. Like, oh, hey, now that I notice, I'm like probably the only beige person on this bus, and this bus is full of black people, But again, I have no issues with that. I have no problems with that. That's perfectly fine. But I'm just saying, just putting out there, like people who may feel like, oh, dark-skinned people may feel like we're being erased, we're being, pushed out, or genocide. Or, I don't know. I just don't see that happening, But maybe I'm missing something about that. Perhaps, maybe. But I guess I can understand where they're coming from, where it's like, oh, light skin, good hair babies, or like, oh, people in the media, etc. I can kind of get where people may feel that, but I don't know. I just don't see that happening, though. I just, have how can you have humanity without dark-skinned folks? You know, right? If that's like ultimately where humanity derived from, you know. And also, like, some of these dark-skinned folks love to talk about, well, black people in general, to be honest, but like, oh, the dominant black gene, right? Even though we all know about these dark-skinned folks who have babies with like light-skinned people, and the kids come out beige, just like they beige mama or beige daddy. But I personally don't buy into that whole like, black is like completely dominant, because let's be honest, we can tell the difference between people who are like 100% black, 75% black, 50% black, 25% black. We can tell. We can tell the difference. If it was that dominant, we wouldn't be able to tell the difference between someone who was mixed and a native African person. We wouldn't. One more thing I want to talk about. If you notice in the community, if a light-skinned person prefers a dark-skinned person, that's not shamed. The community does not shame light-skinned folks for liking or preferring dark-skinned people. Why is that? We do it the other way around. We shame the dark-skinned people for liking light-skinned people. But why not the other way around, though? Why don't we shame the light-skinned people for liking the dark-skinned people? Is it that the community wants to be desired by people who don't look like them? And I sort of might have a theory about this. It may offend some people. My apologies, that's not my intentions, but I'm just going to put it out here. Considering that, light-skinned people do have sort of an adjacency, if that's the word, to otherness or whiteness, perhaps maybe some, people in the community may sort of, like that sort of like desire of being, that desire of being desired. But they may like that desire from someone who is like adjacent to non-blackness. Perhaps like them wanting and feeling sort of validated by someone who has an adjacency to otherness or whiteness, validating their beauty, their handsomeness, what have you, right? And also, especially if the person seemingly has options, to be fair, it's like, oh, this person has options, but they chose me. They chose us, right? They prefer us. And I know that may offend some people and make some people feel some sort of a way, but I think I really just had to put that out there. But I'm going to end this video for now. So thanks for watching, you guys. Feel free to comment. Feel free to thumbs up. And yeah. Adios and goodbye for now.